If you like horses and love Jesus, this is probably your favorite movie. The Linda Hamilton trilogy continues with A Sunday Horse. Today on Nothing Movies. Welcome back, however you wish to self-identify, to Nothing Movies, where we ask the question, is this? It's the podcast where we run down an actor's filmography and choose three of the most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies that they've made and decide whether or not they've got a certain something or if they're just a whole lot of nothing. I'm Kaz.
I'm Jameson.
And we are back in the saddle I had to do it. I had to do it.
Yeehaw!
Look, I had to do it. It's the most obvious joke, but look, we got it out of the way in the first minute, so now we can all breathe. We can all breathe a sigh of relief because it's over and done with now.
You can sleep easy tonight.
We can say, well, I can't, no,
Okay.
because I'm racked with existential guilt. But yes, we are once again talking about the Nothing Movies of Linda Hamilton with 2016's A Sunday Horse. A movie, a faith-based movie about faith-based drama, about pretty horsies and the people who ride them competitively. And Jameson, I'm just gonna come right out of the gate, and I'm just gonna say, actually, that's also a horse, but I didn't mean to do that one. That one was an accident. Should we get a counter?
Nay.
That's three. All right, cool. I'm just gonna come right out, and I'm just gonna give maybe one of the hottest takes I've had in a while.
Okay.
I kind of like this movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know if it's maybe just the most inoffensive thing we've watched in a really long time. There's just really nothing to get mad about.
That's true.
I don't know if you share my sentiments.
I mean, I wouldn't say I liked this movie. I think I was surprised. First of all, it didn't clue into me until I saw the title on the film that, like, wait a second, A Sunday Horse? Is this a religious movie? And yeah, it is. Yeah,
yes, it is.
It never clued into me that it was. I was hoping that the movie would explain what a Sunday horse was.
It does, kind of.
Yeah, but then it comes up with its own interpretive spin on it.
But we can get into what a Sunday horse means as a term and other horse-related terms by speaking to our guest, Jameson. Why don't you do this introduction? No particular reason. I just feel like, you know what? I feel like you got this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh boy, pressure's on now.
No real reason. No particular reason why you should introduce this guest. I just kind of feel like, let's do it. Let's switch things up a little bit.
Oh, I've introduced guests before.
Let's have some fun with it.
Fine. All right. Well, we have a very special guest on today. Well,
Hey.
All right. Well, Kaz, I know you're fond of bringing on your fellow actors onto the show. I tend to like try to.
It's not that I'm fond of it. It's literally the only people I know in life.
Yeah. Virginia was a DJ. Danny's a social worker. Curtis was a producer. Hannah is a journalist. I finally brought an actor. I have an actor, a friend of my own.
Hey, there you go.
Well, she's more than a friend. She's a Twitch streamer under the name Burbtown. She's a riding instructor, and she has probably the most difficult job of all, being my kin, Allie Rafter, my kid
Heyo.
sister. Hey,
Woohoo.
welcome to the show, Allie.
Yes, thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. I am excited to talk about this movie. I have many thoughts.
That's good. That's kind of what we do. That's kind of the whole dealy-do. Yeah, Allie, so you have a long and rich history with horses.
Yes.
The horse world. As someone who really knows nothing about that world, the most information I've ever learned about that particular subject has probably come from watching A Sunday Horse. So tell us a little bit about your background.
My credentials of being
your
a horse girl.
credentials. Yeah, and without really getting into the details, because obviously we'll get into the details a little bit later, how accurate does A Sunday Horse pair up to the world of equestrian?
Okay, so I've been riding horses for almost 20 years. I started when I was 4 years old with pony rides and all that. I rode competitively in the jumper circuit, which the people who ride horses that listen to your podcast, I know there's lots of those. Will
Huge
know what that means.
crossover.
Yeah.
No, you're bringing in the horse
But
community
the
into
interesting part is the discipline that I ride and I compete in is the discipline that's in this movie. So she's a jumper, right? So when they're talking about jump offs and all that stuff, like, I know what they're talking about. I know anyways. But yeah, I've been coaching horseback riding lessons for about 4 years now. I teach mostly beginners and intermediate riders, but so I have a small army of little girls that worship me like a god.
The most terrifying army.
Yeah, it's the nice thing is that for the most part the kids are nice because they're here for the horses, and when they see me they love me because if they see me, usually they're around horses, so they're always in a good mood. Honestly, with A Sunday Horse, it's probably one of the most accurate and best horse movies I have ever seen.
Wow, put that on the DVD cover.
Yeah,
there.
fully endorsed by Ali Rafter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have come from a large pedigree of seeing horse movies?
Oh yeah, I mean, because
I remember growing up, like, what was that animated one you always watched?
Spirit?
Spirit, yeah.
Yes.
Featuring the soundtrack True to Force of Bryan Adams.
I still listen to that.
I bet you do.
What would you consider some other top tier horse movies?
Oh, okay. Well, the ones I kind of gave up on horse movies once I became more involved in the horse world because I was like, this is not what it's like. Because usually
They didn't get the details right.
it's about this girl who has no riding experience. Her mom is always dead for some reason, or she's like a kid from the wrong side of the tracks and has
they went driving in the rain, which
Yeah.
parents should never do.
Exactly, right? And it's like this girl, she comes to her grandpa's ranch to get straightened out, and she's like not into it at all. And there's this problematic horse
Right.
that even grandpa, who's been working with horses for the last 50 years, even can't tame. But this 13-year-old girl who's never touched a horse in her life hops on this
She has
thing
the gift.
bareback, and they're now galloping through the forest, and the wind's in her hair, and it's just that's not how it works at all.
Even though that trope is totally present in A Sunday Horse.
Yes, and you know how many people come to riding lessons and then they're like, oh, this is hard. You're like, yeah, it's not. You can't just walk into the barn and hop on a horse and expect it to be unicorns and rainbows. Horses are lazy. For the most part, they don't understand why they're exercising. They want to save their energy in case a predator comes by, right? They don't understand circles and straight lines or jumps.
All these man-made constructs.
Right?
They just want to run.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes. I think what they really want to do is they want to sleep and eat. They're animals, right? That's kind of generalizing horses. Obviously, there are horses that are more spirited and love to run and love their jobs, but even you'll see the spirited ones taking a nap in the sun.
Just like any living creature. I'm relating a lot to horses, I find.
Yeah.
Eat and sleep, where do I sign?
I do often see you wear an oat bag around your mouth when you show up for a recording.
Being stubborn?
sometimes.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, definitely. Jameson, what time are we recording tomorrow? And you just go... Yeah, you just go, 3 o'clock? Good. Yeah. Well, yeah, but other than Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, were there any top horse movies that you grew up that were on
Like Black Beauty
constant
or...
repeat?
That's a good question. Now that I think of it, I don't really think I consumed a lot of horse media. I played a lot of horse video games, like Barbie Riding Club and stuff like that. So that's sort of what I consumed as a kid. And I'd play the online games of jump this course and do this barrel race and all that fun stuff.
Because you couldn't do the actual riding just yet, so you wanted to have the simulation of it.
Exactly.
Because you had that itch for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I remember growing up, an easy Christmas gift for you every year was just to get you a horse calendar.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I miss those.
To the point where you told us to stop.
Yeah.
I have more depth and personality than that.
Yeah, but I mean, I would get a little one and I'd put it in my locker in high school. They did serve a purpose, Jameson.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course, a horse.
A horse. I think one horse movie that I did see in theaters was Dreamer, and that's about it was more of a racehorse story that I've seen. And there was a little girl, but she didn't ride the horse in the Kentucky Derby and win, but she was just her and the horse had a special bond.
Right, the movie that you were just describing.
Yeah.
The hypothetical movie where she goes to her grandfather's.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm pretty sure that is, I haven't seen Dreamer,
cliche.
but I think that's the plot of what that movie is based on the trailer that I saw. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you raise a good point. A lot of the horse-based media is sort of centered around racing horses and Kentucky Derby movies, films like Seabiscuit and Secretariat and things of that ilk. Sunday Horse is one of those movies that, and yes, I am saying it like that every time.
With a question mark?
A Sunday Horse?
A Sunday Horse?
A Sunday Horse? You can't see it at home, but it requires a little bit of a gesture. You kind of have to tilt your head a little bit, kind of hold your hands up a Sunday Horse. It's like the meme.
It's how you and I decided we were going to cover this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
A Sunday Horse?
The movie was called A Sunday Horse. It's like the meme where the anime guy is pointing at the butterfly. Is this a bird? A Sunday horse.
Is this a Sunday horse?
It's one of those. This movie is one of the few movies I've seen that does sort of focus on horse jumping. It's called horse jumping, right?
Yeah.
Or
I mean, that's like the umbrella term. Like, yes,
Sure.
the horse is jumping. That is correct.
Right. What does the term equestrian mean specifically? Is that a different sport?
I would say like equestrian, that's what they call, that's the umbrella term for all the disciplines that are in the Olympics. Like you'll say, like you'll be scanning through the TV guide and it'll say equestrian Olympics, right? But I would say equestrian is just like anything that has to do with horses. So you've seen like what the cowboys do. That's technically called Western, right? With the big, horns and their
that's
working
what Western
horses.
is. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then English, which is from Europe, those disciplines, that's what you see in the Olympics. That's the show jumping, the dressage, the cross country, hunter jumpers, which I competed in. Was the difference between hunters and jumpers is what you're judged on. So hunters is more about the elegance of it all, while jumpers is fastest time wins.
From a layman's perspective, yeah, watching this movie, it definitely does feel like there's sort of like a subtle balance between the technicalities of the sport of going fast, of knowing how to
Like shave off a few seconds.
Yeah, you'll ride the animal, how to communicate with the animal, and then on the other end, it's also about style and poise, and almost halfway between like a dog show almost. Like you want to present a certain way. There's a certain attitude. That you want to have.
Yes, it's very, it's a rich person sport. So you want to look good. You want to have the expensive horse, right? That makes it look effortless. You want to have the nicest jacket, right? With the hunters, you are judged on your turnout, which is your attire and how well groomed your horse is. Jumpers, there is always a bit of a dress code with any sort of competition. The lower level jumpers, and what I mean by lower level is literally lower jumps. Right, these are huge jumps that these riders are going over, and I would say it is pretty accurate to what the Olympic level jumps are, which is kind of a unique thing that I saw. That was like, oh, they were actually jumping at Olympic level when they said they're jumping at Olympic level. It's not Stevie from the Saddle Club going over a fallen tree and going, wow, we're going to win nationals. It's like, no, you're not, Stevie. That was 2 feet off the ground.
Stevie was always my favorite.
Stevie the underdog.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually refreshing to hear that like they got a lot of the technical details right, because you talk to anybody who's like in any kind of line of work, and whenever they discuss movies or TV shows that follow or depict that industry or that lifestyle, they have to do a lot of creative liberties to make it satisfying for the audience, or just visually interesting, or to save time or money. And so a lot of people, in my examples, like for the video game industry, I haven't seen a movie that is 100%. It's just never accurate. So I'm actually really impressed to hear that, something that doesn't look like it had like a monumental budget actually took the time and care to show this accurately.
What, you mean movies about people who work in the video game industry never quite get it right? I'm honestly trying to think of a movie that...
Grandma's Boy. It depicts like inside the video game industry.
I don't know if Grandma's Boy necessarily was going for accuracy.
It makes it look like an office, like these places of business that are full of like these hard-working, talented people. It basically looks like Chuck E. Cheese, or like a ball pit at like some Dave and Buster's style barcade.
You're telling me that they don't like regularly ship in strippers for the people working on MechWarrior 5?
They don't take time out to have a Nerf gun fight? No.
No, they don't. It's not. Another dream crushed.
Yeah.
So, Ali, we got to know a little bit about your history with the world of horses and horse-related media. What would you say your history with watching Christian movies is?
Zero.
Yeah.
Probably like A Christmas Carol and like joining other holiday movies.
Right. Yeah. Holiday movies often kind of sneak in the subtle Jesus references, just sort of in the sense that you kind of can't quite get around that because it's a Christmas thing.
Or at the very least, like a scene that takes place in a church but isn't surrounded around God. like in Home Alone. Kevin goes to the church, but I don't recall him actually praying. He just meets the creepy old man there,
right.
And he turns out, oh, this guy's actually not creepy. He's lonely around Christmas.
Why would a
like
creepy person be at church?
Yeah, on Christmas Eve alone.
Yeah, creep. Yeah, if you're inside a church, you're famously not a creep. That's never happened. No one has ever used the church or the clergy for their own nefarious means. That
All
doesn't.
creeps get struck by lightning at the door.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. They
burn up on entry like a rock.
You get like a 30-second window where you can like run to the confessional box, and if you confess your sins, then the lightning just misses you. But you gotta really get in there.
Yeah, just get your toes. It's a warning shot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, a lot of religious films, a lot of faith-based movies do carry a bit of a reputation for not being terribly good. Some of them fall into the so bad it's good category, which makes them a little fun to get together with some friends and watch. I'm talking about sort of the more contemporary films like the God's Not Dead trilogy of films or other films of that ilk. But look, I feel like we should probably say this up front, since we've never really covered a religious film before on this podcast. Look, you can have your faith. There are people, there are sadly a lot of people within the Christian community and other religions of that ilk that don't necessarily love my lifestyle necessarily. So I have a little bit of qualms surrounding that, but I can also admit to the fact that there are quite a number of people within the Christian community that don't have an issue with queer people, that don't think we're going to hell, that are decent people and are actually trying to follow like the rules that were set down in the Bible, a book I've never read, but I'm assuming it's mostly good stuff, except for the stuff that got edited and rewritten and now we're taken out of context. This is a hot button topic. And
I would kind of like prefer if we didn't like touch like too much on this.
All I want to say is that we're going to make some jokes about this movie because that's what we do here, but we are not necessarily poking fun at the concept of Christianity in total. And nothing really in this movie, which is a largely inoffensive movie, doesn't really give us the fuel necessarily. Because when I sat down for this movie, I had the knives out. Because I had seen like some truly bad religious movies. One from the same director as this movie.
My impression going into it was that this is going to be a hardcore fundamentalist movie, so it's going to be like very sanctimonious and harsh and little very like on the nose, and it's going to be like very triggersome. I was surprised that this movie's I was surprised it brought up issues of classism, of sexism, of racism, and I did not see that coming. It was a bit of a
pretty well.
Yeah,
like this isn't like a hardcore fundamentalist movie. The horse isn't outside of an abortion clinic with a sign or anything like that. Like that's not happening. Like for the most part, this movie's heart is kind of in the right place. So I just want to say I have a few scruples necessarily with the people within religious communities that think I'm gonna burn in hell, a place that I don't believe exists. But we're not. This is not an attack. This podcast is not an attack on the subject of religion. You can believe what you want to believe because life is too short. So, like, if you get joy and peace out of believing in whatever, that's great.
Yeah, it's just not for me.
Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Don't be a terrible person.
It's like bears. I'm not going to bother them. They're not going to bother me.
All right.
That's sure. Just want to leave it at that.
All right. Well, should we take a quick break? And when we come back, we'll jump right into A Sunday Horse.
Allie, does that sound agreeable? You're the guest.
Sure.
I mean, if you say no, we can keep going.
I was gonna say nay again, but then you already said that, and I can't recycle jokes, not from my own brother.
Oh yeah, we never do that.
Oh,
we never
God
run
forbid.
a joke into the ground on this show.
Not on this show.
No, we're always using like fresh material here.
I was like, what would a horse say? How would a horse say yes? And even though all my experience, I don't know.
They would just nod, right?
Yeah, they do
They
not.
just go like,
I actually have a video I could show you guys after. There was a horse being funny at my barn yesterday.
I would like you to show us that on mic, which will be an experience that we can have, and the audience will not be able to share.
No, you guys will watch it. I've seen the video. I'll describe it for your audio audience.
Fantastic.
You can also send me the video, then I can edit it into the YouTube version of our show.
We'll do all of these things.
Which you always throw under the bus.
Why do I always throw it under the bus? I always tell people the why.
Wrong choice of words. Yeah, you always forget that we have a YouTube portion.
I never forget. I don't know what you're talking about. I always give the YouTube thing a shout out at the end of every episode. I don't throw it under the horse. I always
but you do it because you have to. That's like part of your sign off. Your sign-off paragraph.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should I not? Fine. You know what? From now on, no more sign-off.
Oh.
No more sign-off and no more break.
Jesus,
It's just going to be...
I struck a nerve now,
It's just going to
didn't
be
I?
a hard cut. It's just going to be hard cuts from now on.
All right, we're gonna throw down. We're gonna throw some bows, and when we come back, both Kaz and I will have a black eye, and we'll talk about a Sunday horse.
A Sunday horse.
What did I say?
A Sunday horse?
You said
A Sunday horse?
it's not a question.
That's the way I.
There was
I'm sorry,
undeniably a
sorry,
Sunday
Ali.
horse in
Horses
this
are
movie.
goofy animals, so I'm just gonna put a
Sunday
horse.
horse? They are goofy. That's why I love them.
Yeah.
They're big dogs.
They are big dogs.
They are big dogs.
Yeah.
And we're back. For today's charity spot, I want to talk about Hawaii. We all love it. Even those of us, like myself, who have never actually been there. The iconography, the culture, the food, the landscape. We've always viewed Hawaii as a paradise on Earth. But if certain actions aren't taken, that paradise may be lost forever. Recently, an 80-year-old military tank farm began leaking jet fuel into a drinking water well, and over the past several months, almost 6,000 Hawaiians have complained about nausea, headaches, and rashes. While a lot of residents, mostly military families, have been moved to hotels and water treatment systems have been flown in, the situation is still bordering on a crisis of massive proportions for the native Hawaiian residents. This, coupled with growing over-tourism and some of those same tourists' inability to follow proper COVID-19 safety protocol, has left the people of Hawaii in a life-threatening situation that also threatens the natural beauty of everyone's favorite vacation destination. There are two things that everyone can do to help out Hawaii. First, and this is the one I'm sure no one wants to hear, stop going to Hawaii. There are other places you can vacation right now, and the people who call it home need time to sort out their multiple crises. Secondly, you can make a donation to the YY Ola Waterkeepers, an organization that works to protect the ability of present and future generations to swim, fish, drink, and otherwise use and enjoy the waters that support the people and culture of Hawaii. To make a donation, visit the link in our show notes, or go to waterkeepershi.org. And we're back.
You certainly are.
So, A Sunday Horse is directed by Vic Armstrong. And Jameson, I know you love to do your whole thing was all like, so the name of the movie and this.
Yeah.
Please let me get through this because like once I get started, you will want to know more about this guy.
Okay,
This guy's fascinating.
Sure.
So, directed by Vic Armstrong, who, much like the last time, Jameson, we covered a movie that co-starred prominently a horse, is one of the most prolific stuntmen in all of Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
I would say, arguably, even more so than Hal Needham, even though, to the best of my knowledge, Vic Armstrong did not have a playset named after him that
Right.
children could buy in the 70s.
Check out our episode on the villain to catch these inside jokes.
Yeah. Vic Armstrong, he left school at 14 to become a jockey. His father was a racehorse trainer.
I think his father was a horse.
His father was a horse. I did in fact
That
say-
was a mutter.
I did in fact. That's why this movie's so accurate. He's part horse.
Yeah.
This is the first Hollywood movie to be directed by the spawn of a horse.
This is why it's important to get representation, people.
It's a very progressive movie. Now, his father was a racehorse trainer. An opportunity handling horses led him to the film industry. So, yeah, in part, that's why this film is as accurate as it is, because it's directed by someone who has spent his entire life around horses. He met his wife, Wendy, on the set of Superman, where he was doubling for Christopher Reeve, and she was doubling for Margot Kidder. They've worked on multiple films together, and they have 3 children, all of whom are stunt people. He has a long history with the James Bond franchise, starting with the 5th film, You Only Live Twice, and ending with him directing many of the Pierce Brosnan movies, including the awesome powerboat chase in the opening of The World Is Not Enough.
Oh.
His most severe injury came from the set of the...
We've never covered, like, injuries on, like, the director recap.
No, but like this is something that I uncovered.
Okay.
Came on the set of the unofficial James Bond movie Never Say Never Again, where he had to burst between 2 other riders and his stirrup got caught in one of their shoulders, turning his entire foot around, dislocating his ankle, and pulling his foot out of its socket.
Good God.
And the end of this account that I read here ends with the sentence, Vic went back to work the next day.
Oof.
Yeah. So
What a guy.
Yeah, this guy. But he's perhaps best known for his association with the Indiana Jones franchise, doubling for Harrison Ford, which was helped by the fact by how similar they look. Here's a photo of Vic Armstrong and Harrison Ford on the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, wow.
They're basically doppelgangers.
Wow.
Yeah, he said people were constantly coming up to him on the set and calling him Harrison.
And people are like, wow, Harrison Ford's got a fucked up foot.
That was after. That came
Okay.
after. Although he probably had a few injuries.
Why are you limping, Harrison?
I mean, probably because he crashed his plane again, if I had to guess. Vic's most famous stunt, arguably, is from The Last Crusade, where he jumped from the back of a moving horse onto a moving tank. Yeah, so, like, that's a fun reason to rewatch the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Anytime you see Indiana Jones and you can't quite see his face, that's Vic Armstrong, baby. He's in most of that. He doubled for Harrison a lot on the set of Temple of Doom, because when he was filming that, he hurt his back. So he was actually on the set of that movie a lot.
Okay.
He's also worked as a second unit director. He directed the future war sequence of Terminator 2 in just 4 days.
Oh, wow.
Yep, so that's the Linda Hamilton connection, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Been a second unit director for Total Recall, Last Action Hero, Starship Troopers, Gangs of New York, Mission Impossible 3, Thor, and The Amazing Spider-Man. And
Wow.
like, I could list his credits as a stunt person, but we'd be here all night. He's been in so many things.
What a, like, one of the most famous names, like, I've never heard of.
Absolutely.
Wow.
He's huge, and he's a British actor, so he hasn't won a Life Achievement Oscar yet, but he has won a Life Achievement BAFTA, so like he's very well known in the industry.
Okay.
Yeah, big guy. But as a director, Armstrong has only made 2 other movies. He directed the 1993 Dolph Lundgren action film Joshua Tree, also known as Army of One. But the other movie he directed was from 2014, and it is the famously awful Nicolas Cage faith-based movie Left Behind.
Oh, I watched half of that, and then I turned it off because it sucked.
Yeah, past guest and a friend of the podcast, Harrison Mooney, and I watched that on a double feature with God's Not Dead, because we wanted to watch some terrible Christian movies, and that movie does the unthinkable task of actually being worse than the direct-to-video Kirk Cameron 90s version of Left Behind. It's maybe one of the worst movies Nicolas Cage has ever made, which is saying
Something.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's Vic Armstrong, like a really fascinating guy.
Yeah.
Allie, I forgot to ask in the intro, this is our Linda Hamilton miniseries. Do you have any opinions on Linda Hamilton as a career, as an actor, or anything like that?
I will be honest, this is the only movie I've ever seen with Linda Hamilton in it. I've never seen Terminator, which I know she's known for. I only know that because when JJ was telling me...
Oh, yeah, she calls me JJ.
Yeah, what he was telling me
That's
what
fascinating. I
movies
loved it.
movie to watch. She was like, "Oh yeah, it's for Linda Hamilton," and I was like, "Who?" And I looked up her IMDb page, and I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing we keep sort of running into, I say keep running, this is only the second one, but kind of the interesting thing about Linda Hamilton's career is that she is known for doing Sarah Connor, she's known for doing the 2 Terminator movies, and then years later she did the number 6. She kind of really hasn't done anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unusual that you haven't really seen her in anything, or haven't really have like a true opinion on her, because she's mostly done movies that no one has ever heard of, which is why I thought she would be an interesting topic for this podcast, because we run through the careers of, we talk about the movies that have no cultural footprint, and looking through her filmography, that's kind of every movie she made.
Yeah.
Like, she did one sort of famous volcano movie in the 90s called Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan, and then she's in Children of the Corn, which I'm guessing you've heard of.
I definitely heard
like
of it.
pop culture.
Yeah.
Because that's like a saying people have when you see creepy children. Oh, Children of the Corn over there. That's kind of it. Like, we ran through her filmography, and it's basically... It's nothing. It's full of nothing movies.
I just, we have to prepare ourselves here, Kaz, because we're a lot older than Allie. Allie is like the youngest of us 3 kids, so we're very much showing our age here.
Well, okay, I hate to change the subject, but the actor that I do recognize from that movie is Nikki Reed, who plays the lead, because she's in Twilight.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And I have not seen Twilight.
No, neither have I. But you know what? Lately, I have come to the realization that I truly need to sit down and I need to watch all 5 of those movies.
You must.
Because
You
I
absolutely
feel
must.
like... Because I avoided them at the time based on...
Because it was cool to avoid them.
It was cool. Exactly.
And now it's cool to know them.
You're absolutely right. It has completely come around now. It's cool to kind of look at them from sort of like not even like an ironic detachment. Like, I feel like there's sort of like a cultural reevaluation of the Twilight movies coming out, and they're saying like, you know what, these aren't as bad as we were giving them credit for, and the parts that apparently are bad are kind of like bad in a fun way. Also, I now like Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart as actors enough now that I feel like I can go back and I can watch them and I can appreciate what they've done.
Apparently the cast and crew commentaries for those DVDs are a riot because they spend the entire time just trashing the material.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson is very self-effacing about those movies.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and he's not
Shameless
afraid
about
to,
it.
to talk about it.
Yeah.
But Nikki Reed, her sort of like start in the industry is she co-wrote and co-starred in a movie called 13. Are you familiar with that at all?
I've heard of it.
Right.
I haven't.
Right. So 13 is sort of a semi-autobiographical movie that she co-wrote when I believe she was like 15. So I think she's one of the youngest credited screenwriters in Hollywood history. I'd have to double check that. But so she hooked up with a family friend, director Catherine Hardwicke, who directed the first Twilight movie. So that's how she kind of got into that series. And they made this movie, which is kind of about her life. She sort of ran away from home when she was like 14. She kind of got into like drugs and sex, and she was kind of like a rebellious teen. And then she was sort of inspired by this filmmaker to kind of like write a story about it. And the movie's pretty good. It got Holly Hunter an Oscar nomination for supporting actor. Yeah, it's pretty good. Jameson, we have actually seen Nikki Reed in a movie very recently on this podcast. Any guesses as to what movie that might have been?
Oh, very recently?
Very recently.
Very recently.
A few episodes ago.
Well, the most contemporary movie I think we've seen would it have to either be Maggie or Iron Mask? Is she in either of those?
She's not in either of those.
Okay.
No. She's actually in Empire State.
Oh.
And keeping with the weird way that movie does its credits, in the sense that they credited Emma Roberts second for being in the movie for maybe 5 minutes, Nikki Reed gets the width in that movie.
Oh, okay.
Not even there's no "and" in the movie. She's just the last name in the credits. She gets with. She plays one of the girls that they take to the club.
Oh,
and I
stuck up
I
ladies?
rewatched
Yeah.
that scene right before we came here. She has maybe 3 lines. And all she's doing is just all like, I want another drink. Get the fuck out of here. And then she's gone. And she gets the width for that. I'm assuming because she's in Twilight and she's somewhat of a name and they wanted to pump that up. But I was watching this and then I went through her filmography like, oh shit, she's in a movie we just watched. Who is she? And yeah, it's the most forgettable throwaway little role in that.
Well, in A Sunday Horse, she's the lead.
Yes, she is. And she's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think she's pretty good. I think she kind of nails the emotional scenes that she has to do. I kind of bought it. I was reading her Wikipedia quote, and what I found interesting to find out is that she's Jewish. So it's always fun to watch one of these Christian movies where they're clearly doing it just for the paycheck.
I think a few people in this movie were doing it for the paycheck.
I think probably most of them. I don't know if Vic Armstrong has like the type of clout that that you attach.
He ought to.
He should. He
Yeah,
really should. Like
by the sound of it.
maybe people just like sign up for it. The other weird thing I learned is that this was to date. This is the last movie she's been in. She just hasn't been in any movies since 2016. I don't know if she just decided to retire or whatnot. I know she married another famous sexy vampire. She married Ian Somerhalder from the Vampire Diaries. So I guess they're having little vampire babies or
and
whatever.
riding their horses.
Yeah, but Nikki Reed should come back to movies because she's totally fine in this. But anyway,
A Sunday Horse.
A Sunday Horse.
So the movie, we start off where we see Nikki Reed as Debbie, who is working the stables. We find out that she was a former horse jumping champion, but because her family is not wealthy, she hasn't ridden in about 4 years, even though she is like a former champion herself. And just to earn some money on the side, she's working at some stables at like some rich family's estate farm.
We find this out with some amazing opening narration.
Oh yes.
That I just absolutely love. She said, like, I don't believe in I don't believe in miracles anymore. You know, like instead of turning water into wine, gave way to a doobie toke on a Saturday night, which makes me want to see a prequel to this movie, a Saturday doobie. She also says,
If I'd seen a burning bush, I'd have been more inclined to reach for a hose than listen for the voice of God.
She says that multiple times.
She says that multiple times. I just want to say, Christian people, if you see a burning bush, grab a hose.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the voice of you. Gotta, the fire spreads quickly.
You know what's funny? Like, she says like that she's lost her faith and that she's a lapsed
Doesn't
Christian.
seem like it.
Not entirely, but when it comes back to her, it comes back in a big way, like in an annoyingly big way. What, she's had like 2 years where she didn't believe in God, and then she's making up for lost time, where it's like, God delivered this horse to me.
It's because she was smoking that dank kush, which famously you can't do both. You can't worship the Lord and smoke reefer at the same time.
What kind of burning bush are we talking
about?
So yeah, she's working at this rich family's farm, and the horse trainer there recognizes her. And when one of their he wants to try her out riding this jump horse.
This was Jonathan, who I wrote down as judgmental Jonathan, because he's kind of the worst in this opening scene. He's not great.
Oh my gosh! And guys are like that in the world of horses. It's also the little bit of sexism that is prevalent everywhere. They even touch it in the movie. Mm-hmm. Men ride for gold, even though it's a woman-dominated sport and industry.
Yeah, it took me a while before I realized that they were talking about like gold medals. That's all. Like they're riding for gold. That sounds like a very like cowboy thing to say. Like, men ride for gold. There's gold in them hills.
Up in them there hills.
I mean, there's a young trophy wife woman in this movie who I would have to say is riding for gold. Anyways, don't repeat that to Mom.
It's committed to memory.
All right.
You'll get a phone call later.
Can we talk about two weird opening credits here? Like,
sure.
The very first thing we see in this movie, which definitely did not inspire confidence, is that the very first credit that pops up, instead of like a production company, well, it is the production company, but the production company is Sunday Horse 2 LLC presents.
They made a production company for this movie,
and they had to credit it as 2 just so they didn't get confused with what it was. But the other confusing credit, I don't think I've ever seen this before. There are two different screenplay credits for this movie in the opening credits. One of them is screenplay by, but the other one is based on a screenplay. I've never seen that before. What does that mean? Based on this, I guess like
based
someone
on draft one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like someone wrote a script and then they optioned it, but then someone maybe heard of it and they decided, well, we're gonna make this movie based on someone else's idea or a script that's already there.
But that happens all the time in movies. Like, someone will write a screenplay and then it'll sit on a shelf and then someone else will take it. But they don't often get the credit based on the screenplay. They usually just combine the two together, and whoever wrote that earlier screenplay still gets a screenplay credit, even though nothing of the movie that they wrote is in the movie anymore.
Well, you know what's funny? This is based on a true story.
It is, yes.
But looking at, like, the events that...
Inspired by a true story.
Because, like... The events of this movie had to take place in, like, the 1980s Olympics.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize until...
But it's set in, like, modern day.
It didn't clue into me until the very end of the movie. Oh, this is a period piece. That's right, yeah. That actually, that's been happening over the past of a couple of movies we've watched. This one time it actually was true. This actually was... It's all like, why isn't it?
It technically is based on a true story.
It is,
but we're going to give it a contemporary spin.
I didn't look up how much of this story is true. I'm assuming like certain characters are creations of the movie, but we do know that there was...
One in particular I'm going to have to say is like 100% like made up. Even, like not knowing anything about the true story.
I have a feeling I know which one you're talking about. But there was in fact a woman named Debbie Walden, and without looking it up, I'm going to assume she had accidents and she came back and she won trophies and ribbons and stuff. I'm going to assume that's what the inspired by is. But there we go.
So Jonathan is impressed with her riding abilities and says like, I want to, like, he encourages her to get back into riding because she has so much raw talent and so much...
He comes by and he's all like, you're quite the fool for not doing this, you know. He's got a bunch of ribbons himself. He's the negging champion of 2016.
Yeah.
Although I suppose in the horse racing world, it's negging.
Oh.
Woo! Woo!
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Ha ha! Woo!
Yeah, he's given her a real hard time for like not pursuing this, and she's very upfront with like, my family doesn't have the money to do this. You know, this is why I'm busting my ass working in a barn for like this asshole rich family, including Elise, who I'm going to say is probably the most despicable villain
Well,
we've
yeah.
ever covered on the show.
Well, yeah, she's definitely written that way. Yeah, she's terrible.
But it's
Yeah.
more than just like the stereotypical sports movie rival or like the mean girl. Like, she's an overt racist.
There's no redeeming facts about this character. At
Yeah.
all. No, she's just the worst from the very first scene to the end, and there's no redemption for her.
Yeah, like she pokes fun at Debbie, saying that, oh, I remember you. You were the Pillsbury dough girl, only because like she couldn't have like form-fitting riding gear, and she's just like this absolute heel. One of the most despicable movie villains of all time.
Yeah, I never thought I would make this statement, but you know what? Elise, she needs some Jesus. She needs some Jesus in her life. She needs to find that man. Yeah. Debbie has like a weird line to Jonathan here because she catches her, again, smoking that dank weed upside down, and then
and not putting it out
that
properly.
scene comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then she has like some sort of line where she compares him to 007, and then she says, no, then he says, is that some sort of compliment? And then she says, only from the waist up. It's like, is that a dick joke? What does that mean? Only from the waist up.
I think she's telling him that he's handsome.
But only from the waist up.
Only from the waist up.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's got a tiny wee-wee.
I guess so.
I guess
yeah.
that's what that
That's
means.
as dirty as this Christian movie's gonna get.
This movie is like maybe like the dirtiest Christian movie I've ever seen, which is to say, not at all. But
I interpreted that it was a compliment, but it's like I'm telling you that, but I'm not trying to get in your pants.
right.
Like
Yeah.
that's where I was like, oh, that's just like the line that she's drawing there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jonathan's not trying to get in her pants either. Like they have their friendship blossoms to a very platonic relationship where there's like no romantic chemistry implied at all. At one point, one of the stable owners like straight up accuses him because he's really driving her towards the championship. He's like, "Are you sleeping with her? Why are you giving her so many chances?" And he just straight up says, "Not my type." And I think that's the closest this movie gets to acknowledging that he might be gay.
I guess. Sure. Or he's just like super judgmental.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know. There's a lot of like cheek fondling between the two of them.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, they're not trying to make it a romance, but what is this goodbye scene? And it's so awkward. I think the actors just like didn't really know what to do, and the director's probably just like, no, just give like a little something, like just like
A tender caress.
yeah. And then it was just sort of like, I only do this with someone I'm maybe romantically interested in. Why would I be doing this to my friend? And you can see the actors like they're just the look. You can see the gears turning in their head when they're like, I shouldn't do this because we're supposed to be friends. And then they go away. It's a little bit awkward, and then they do it again.
Up until this point, the only heads that Debbie touches are the horses. She caresses their size
She's
of the face.
smooching the heck out of some horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know the maniac that is Kirk Cameron has like this thing where he won't kiss a woman in any of his movies that's not his wife. So whenever he has love scenes with people, or not love scenes, but whenever he has kissing scenes with actresses who play his wife in movies, they always have to shoot them from the back, and that's when they bring in his actual wife. Because he won't kiss anyone that isn't his wife. I don't know if that's like the case in this. I don't know who this Jonathan actor is. I don't know if like he has like some weird Christian rules or whatever. But yeah, I mean that's a possibility there.
Yeah. So Debbie needs to find herself a horse, and not just any kind of horse.
She has to find a Sunday horse.
She has to find a renegade with talent and the heart of a lion.
I know what I want. I know exactly what I want. A renegade with talent.
Oh, is that all?
And the heart of a lion.
Sound like anybody you know?
Jameson is pointing at himself.
Damn right I am.
Inferring that he is the Sunday horse of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not arguing. I'm not
Sunday
arguing.
horse?
I've actually always
You?
I've always thought that, but I never had the words to say it before, so that makes a lot of sense.
So they go to a horse auction. Is that the right word for it? Okay,
I
great.
think they were saying it's like they were going to
Just
like
a sale, wasn't it?
yeah. I
If
was
it was
like
a horse auction, there'd be someone in the background going,
like a lot of, I think they were also looking for a cheap horse, so they were like going around where usually with horses that go up for sale or auction, if they don't get bought, they get sent to the slaughter.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where they were looking.
Because as we find out, Debbie has been working at this stable for many years, but she has only saved $63 in all that time, probably because weed is expensive. I don't know. You know? So that's yeah. So she has $63 to spend on a horse, but she's gotten other people to chip in some money
to buy Hellhole Swamp, this wild horse owned by Bobby, who is the character that I think you would be perfect, or you would be cast as.
I like this character.
Yeah,
this
he's
very good.
hilarious. Yeah, Moo, come on now.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, he's a real like concern it. Get out of here, you dirty
you dang
I don't even know.
Take the dirty nag.
I say.
And as you were saying, Allie, I mean, like, this is the most predictable this movie gets because, of course, the horse that she sees, the horse that she inevitably ends up buying is, the one that Bobby, he's having trouble wrangling it. It plays by its own rules. No one else can tame this horse, and of course, it comes running towards her, and there's a slow-mo shot where she holds up her hands, and of course, the light is behind the horse, and it's like, it's like a sign. It's a sign from God.
That scene in Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, where Gandalf the White appears, and it's like this blinding light. Yeah. That's what this scene is like.
Like, I would have loved it if,
like,
of course she holds up her hands and the horse slows down and the horse has like an immediate connection
with her.
Him.
If a horse is running towards you, you put your hands up so you turn into a wall, and then hopefully they stop.
Right, so there wasn't a spiritual connection between her and the horse. She just did what you're supposed to do when a horse is running at you and the horse stopped.
Well, a loose horse, there's probably a road there. You got to try to stop it.
Mm-hmm. And she has the gift.
But it was in slow motion, and it was backlit, so it has something to do with
the Lord.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
all part of the plan.
He spoke to her through the horse, which I don't know. I know you've had a couple of favorite horses over the years. Was it anything like that?
I mean, I feel
like God is speaking to you through the horse.
I'll say horseback riding it's a very unique sport, that it is very emotional, it's physically demanding, and it's also very mentally and emotionally demanding.
Because it's a partnership with you and the animal.
Exactly, right? And horses can smell your emotion change, right? They can feel your heart rate change. So you can really connect with a horse, and you can have a very special bond with them. And you'll hear stories of the keyword that the equestrian community likes to use is your heart horse. And that's your once in a lifetime, 1 in a million horse that you two had a very special connection and a very special bond. So, I mean, as cliche as that scene was, I was like, yeah, that's how beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, but I also imagine that like all relationships, it happens over time.
Yes,
as
exactly.
You get to know the animal, much like how in movies, if you see someone that you eventually fall in love with, the time doesn't stop and the song Dreamweaver doesn't start playing.
It's not love at first sight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
all like soft focus and everything.
Yeah.
So she needs some money to get Hellhole Swamp, who she wants to name the evangelist. She goes to her parents. Mom is played by Linda Hamilton, and Dad, I didn't catch the actor's name.
He's played by an actor named Gary Grubbs, who's in some other things. I didn't write down his credits. I got as far as Gary Grubbs, and I'm all like, that's
all you need to know.
Yeah.
That's all I need to mention.
Linda Hamilton is supportive, and Gary Grubbs is not.
I was a little worried when we picked. Obviously, we picked this movie because it's called A Sunday Horse. But I was a little worried, and my fears were a little perfectly realized in the fact that poor Linda Hamilton really doesn't have anything to do in this movie. It's really such a throwaway role. She's just like the supportive mom because the dad's not supportive, and she's just like the nice mom who comes to the horse. I was gonna say horse meets. Matches, shows. That's the word. She claps and she's nice. She's a nice parent.
She gave up her sewing machine though.
She
or I
did.
guess no, she was going to.
She was going to.
Yeah.
And that's what changes Bobby's mind.
He was like, my heart.
No, I can't deprive a young lady of a sewing machine. My God, no.
That one does embroidery.
And he just gives the horse away.
For free.
Because
he can't bear this sob story.
Yeah.
We've got the money. Debbie, I can't touch the college money that your daddy put aside for you, but I have some that I've squirreled away trying to get one of those sewing machines that does embroidery. It's my money. I earned it selling summer candy. Your daddy's got no say over it.
No, Mom, I can't. You've wanted that sewing machine for years.
You listen to me. If you really think that God wants you to have that horse.
Not like this. It's okay. You've already sacrificed so much for me and Peggy.
Fine, just take the dang nag. Take him. Two, you more the same man can handle.
Well, he said that if he becomes a jumper, then pay him back.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so-
then Linda Hamilton gives him a kiss on the cheek. He goes, "Ah, gosh, darn
Oh,
it,
shucks."
guy he takes his hat off and he's all
Puts it
blushing.
up, yeah.
"Ah, darn."
He's got a heart of gold, this Bobby. How much are fucking sewing machines? Because I know you can get one at the thrift store for like $20.
Well, but she wanted the fancy one that does embroidery.
Oh.
So, you know.
Well, this
So that
horse.
she can embroider her fancy saddle pad and their fancy cooler. that they
And
have
it's
for
all
the
her money
horses.
that she's been saving up from canning jellies and jams. You know, things moms do. Mom shit.
That her daddy doesn't know about because he's like, I'm saving this college fund money for you and not to blow on a horse because that's a pipe dream and your future is there at the college.
Yeah.
I want you to get a good education and give up horse riding.
I don't know what this dad's fucking problem was. He was a real ornery.
You know what it is? It's the complete opposite of the parents pushing their kids in like varsity sports, like to compensate for failed dreams. He wants her to have like a solid education.
Well, because he has failed dreams. Because they mentioned that he used to coach for the NFL
NHL.
and
NFL.
NFL.
Is it? I
Yeah.
thought it was. I
So-
thought it was hockey.
That was the Redskins. So like that's my
So-
favorite team.
What do I know?
So back
Horse
to
is
like
my sport.
back to this being like based on like a true story. That guy did play in the NFL for the Washington Redskins
Oh, there we go.
in the 1940s. So
Whoa.
yeah.
Wow.
So
Back when it was called pigskin.
yeah, exactly.
They wore leather
the
helmets.
leather helmets and everything. Yeah. So like again, yeah, this
I thought
movie.
he was a coach. Wasn't he a coach?
He coached high school because he was a player.
Oh,
and
he
then
was a player,
and then he
then
retired, and then he
Oh.
coached high school football.
He retired in protest, though, because it seems like he doesn't want to be a high school coach. It seems like he's doing that because he doesn't have any other options.
Yeah, even though
Which
like
is where the chip on his shoulder comes from.
even though like small town America, like they're crazy about their high school sports and like
Yeah.
varsity stuff like that.
Especially
so
football.
I imagine he gets paid more than a teacher. He's got some money for that, but yeah, he doesn't like coaching high school football, and thinks it's a waste of time to be chasing your dreams. And like, I love at one point he says, "Hey, I'm not the bad guy here," as he's throwing up the devil horns. It's a nice
That
little.
might have been inadvertent. I don't know.
Right,
I don't know
yeah.
if you could sneak that into a Christian movie here.
You know what? You also can't sneak in a Christian movie. Swears.
Oh man, okay, we gotta talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
You both noticed this, right?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, or
Yeah.
not too.
Yeah,
I had
so-
subtitles on. So
Yes,
I was like,
I-
that's not what they said.
Yep, as we did. Yes, we often watch the movies with subtitles, and yeah, there were multiple times where I guess the original recorded line was shit, because they talk about like, oh, I used to shovel in horse shit and everything, but every time the word shit comes up, it's part of the subtitles, but it's always substituted for another word, and the lips do not match what they're saying. It's either horse crap or manure or whatnot. It happens multiple times. It's very funny.
You only like me because I called Elise out on her crap.
I know.
Like,
You are
the
so bad.
The worst ADR imaginable.
Very funny, yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. It reminds me of the most hilarious ADR I've ever seen in my life. It was the weirdest censoring I've ever seen. I watched a movie on a Greyhound bus once, and it was the Tom Hanks movie, The Lady Killers. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I've seen it, yeah.
So yeah, there's like a bunch of criminals and whatever, and there's a scene where they blow up a bank vault, and Marlon Wayans is like next to a security guard, and the security guard kind of hears like a rumbling or whatever, and the line in the actual movie, he turns to the security guard and he says, "Did you just fart?" And the security guard laughs, and that's how they get away with it. I remember there's the second time I'd seen the movie, so I watched it on the Greyhound bus, and on the bus edit.
The bus cut.
The bus cut, the line is changed to "Did you just burp?" I've never forgotten that because I'm like, really? Fart? You can't say fart? What the hell, Greyhound? Your buses smell like farts anyway, so like, what's the difference?
Elementary school students say fart.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
yeah,
safe.
That's what they're doing. They're showing The Lady Killers to elementary school students, a movie where multiple people are murdered in horrible ways. Yeah, but that's very funny.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention the scene where she goes to the pastor, I
yeah.
guess, to like ask advice, because it's kind of like the first time she's getting back on the Jesus train or whatever, and the pastor there's one line I wrote down, like he gives her some advice. He says like, "Oh, don't be all pastory." I'm like, what do you want him to do? That's why he's here. It's like his whole job.
Because he's not wearing like
Yeah.
the preacher clothes or anything.
You know,
so,
he's a cool pastor.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah, he's one of those.
The
yeah.
youth pastor, yeah.
But like this is the one part of the movie where, again, I'm not here to belittle anything, but it's the one part where I kind of have to like roll my eyes, because his kind of like message is all like, like show a little gratitude for what God has given you, and it's all like he gave you like the opportunity to like jump, he gave you like the talent to do this. Don't ask him for money. It's like, yeah, I get what you're trying to say, but also you're kind of ignoring the issue here. in that she still, like, she can come away with like a newfound sense of like self-worth and everything. It still doesn't solve her problem that she doesn't have enough money to buy this horse, until I guess that issue becomes a non-issue because Bobby just gives her the horse.
Go to him with a sob story about a sewing machine, and the horse is yours.
Which I guess, I guess that's what God did. God found a way. God provided. There we go. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, the master is absolutely no help. He just tells you, put your butt in that saddle and ride. I'm just all like, you're not helping, dude. You're not.
He clearly doesn't know how the horse industry works.
No, not at all. He does give her $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which and send her on her way, which is nice, and more help than her own father was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Debbie starts competing, and I forget like what kind of like regional. I don't know the terminology whatsoever.
I mean, I never competed at that high. I only competed in local shows, right? Because we didn't have really the funds to pursue higher. And that's where I find the realisticness of this movie really comes to play, because I could relate to her at the beginning that she just didn't have the money for the horse she needs, and that's
all too common.
Yeah, can relate to that.
And she begs Bobby to try and get this horse because she's all like, me and this horse were meant to be together. It's God's will. And I'm kind of like, as an audience member, all like, you interacted for like 2 minutes. Like, you really don't know. You haven't even been on the horse yet.
Yeah, I want you to see the horse, and you'll see for yourself that it was God's plan that we were to be met.
Yeah, Linda Hamilton says, like, before I give you the money for this horse, can I at least see the horse? I'm like, yeah, good point.
Well, she outright says to Linda Hamilton, like, I was meant to be with this horse, and Linda Hamilton has this look on her face like,
well, it's gonna turn weird.
Yeah. I gotta say, in the scene where like Linda Hamilton goes to check out the horse, it looks like she's genuinely afraid of horses.
Right.
I mean, they're big animals. They are big dogs, but they're big.
But like, I'm not just talking about like the character. I think she may genuinely have a fear of horses, and she's asked to be like close to this.
She might be playing the character as just someone who's like
a sheltered mom.
A little bit. Well, because there's one funny thing where Bobby says like, slow down, dang it, and she says, please don't swear.
Careful, my horse, dang it!
Please do not swear.
Which is pretty funny.
I like how they.
And he's like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I like how they keep covering up for swears too. Like, I want to get your head out of the clouds.
Yeah. So the horse is originally named Hellhorn Swarm, but that won't do. So she renames
Hellhole
it.
Swamp.
Sorry, Hellhorn Swamp. That won't do it. Also, she renames it as the Evangelist, or Evan for short. And I thought it was a missed opportunity to call the horse Vanjie. That's a drag race joke for all of you straight co-hosts out there.
Vanjie.
Okay. Vanjie. Sorry.
Vanjie.
Vanjie. Miss Vanjie. Anyway, sorry. That's a joke for a very specific certain people. Anyway.
I understood that.
Yay! All right, cool.
All right, sweet.
Wouldn't it be great if there was a cut of this movie where Vanjie did like a voiceover for the horse?
We'll have to tweet her.
Yeah. I'll get like a cut. Yeah, she seems open to that.
Yeah.
That'd be fine. Hello, Debbie. Anyway, sorry.
No, this is great. I'll be a third wheel on my own show. All right, so Debbie goes and competes at this one show, and it's attended by Henry Valentine, who's played by Ving Rhames.
Hell yeah.
And he is tech millionaire, thoroughbred beater, snappy dresser.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the little bow tie.
Oh, man, when I saw Ving Rhames walk in with that purple suit and the black cane and like the stylish hat and everything, and it's like hell yeah. And those are his outfits he has a suit for every color.
And every day is Easter.
Every day of the week. He's got these fantastic colors.
Pastels.
Yeah, Ving Rhames plays Mr. Valentine, no first name needed or given.
Henry.
It's Henry.
Is it? Oh, okay, never mind. I
on.
missed that.
Yeah.
He's just credited as Mr. Valentine, so I didn't think to search any further.
So I guess he made all of his money in computers.
Or some such,
some
which is
such.
the line.
Yeah.
Computers or
like
some.
That's Mr. Valentine.
Henry Valentine made his fortune in computers or some such.
He's obviously new money, and he's a black gentleman at like the whitest country club or whatever.
It's a very white sport.
Very white sport, yeah. He overhears like some very overt racism
From Elise.
Yeah.
What does she say?
I don't want to repeat it on
Something,
air.
something like
No.
something about like his kind.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like there's no other way you can interpret that.
I mean, I was.
Because he's a snappy dresser. He's like a tech billionaire. He's dined with presidents, and it's like there's no other way to take that other than making it a race thing. And she says it loud enough for him to hear it
Yeah,
too.
I don't automatically want it to. I didn't want to go to racism automatically, so I'm just like, oh, please let it be about like new money versus old money.
She gives no qualifier.
Yeah.
So there's no other way you can interpret that.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
What I think is interesting is that if this movie were to take place in the 1980s, like if these events took place in the 1980s and they're brought by for like a contemporary audience, there's no goddamn way that there is a real person named Henry Valentine who was rich off computers. I looked up like Valentine computing. Doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, he's
made up for the movie.
He's most likely a combination of like other characters because it's more interesting, and it adds a really interesting element to this movie. Like he's not a Danny Glover character. He's not a stereotype or anything like that. He's a fully fleshed out, interesting character, and the movie takes the opportunity to both like discuss his role as a black man in, as you say, like a very white sport, but also it goes into like the history of black people within the sport, and he talks about how a lot of the first jockeys were black, about how
the first winner of the Kentucky Derby was black.
Absolutely, which is information that I now know because I've seen the trailer for Jordan Peele's Nope a bunch of times, and that's all what that's about. So I'm assuming that the twist of Nope is going to be they're going to get sucked up into the sky and Henry Valentine is going to be behind it all or something. I don't know. That'd be great. If Ving Rhames showed up in that movie, that would be awesome. Yeah, but like, again, I'm watching them all like, I didn't expect this movie to carve
go
out,
there, right?
to carve out 5 minutes of its runtime to specifically talk about Black History Month. It's I got to give this movie the smallest amount of credit for actually including that and for making Ving Rhames an actual character.
Yeah, and because Debbie has to deal with the overt sexism and he has to deal with the overt racism, they share that commonality. And
parallel.
I'm going to sponsor you. You're going to like train some of my horses.
That happens later. There's like a whole chunk in between that. Where she has to answer to the other marquee name in this movie, William Shatner.
Oh yeah. I texted you.
Yeah. William Shatner.
All capital letters.
Giving maybe the most restrained performance I've ever seen him give.
What? Why did they get William Shatner?
Why not? If you can get him, put him in the movie.
He has nothing to do in this movie.
He really doesn't. Yeah. Yes. I mean, he has one pretty good joke where they're in like the country club or whatever, and because he really wants to buy the horse, Elise really wants to buy the horse. Everyone wants this horse.
Yeah.
This horse is
this horse that everyone thought was a lost cause.
Yeah.
But as
now
soon as
everyone,
they see,
and money is no option.
Well, will you sell him?
The evangelist?
Yep.
No, I couldn't sell him. No. He was a gift. From God. Oh, from God.
I didn't even know he rode.
I'm like, all right, one funny joke in this movie, and it was delivered very well. But then, other than that, Shatner has very little to do in this movie. Most of his role in this movie is interacting with his much younger wife, who is played by Vic Armstrong's daughter.
Oh, really?
Who is not really an actor. She's mostly a stunt person, but she weirdly has this prominent role in this movie, and she's not bad.
Yeah,
she's
good.
totally
I
fine.
liked her.
Yeah.
They can ride.
They can ride. She probably got the role because she can ride, and it's easy to cast a stunt person who can ride and act a little bit. So
She did have to kiss William Shatner though.
I mean, that is kind of like, I mean, there's nepotism, and then there's all like, he's British, so like, I got a plum roll for you in my new movie, darling. You get to be married to William Shatner, and she's like, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Daddy.
Thanks, Daddy.
At least I could ride my ponies.
Yeah, and she plays, I guess it's not fair to call her a trophy wife because she's also a writer, and she's like a talented writer as well.
Exactly, yeah. And like she competes as well. And like originally she wanted Debbie's horse because she thinks it's a beautiful horse. She wants it for herself. It's not for sale. But then she and Debbie and William Shatner go in on buying another horse. Another lost cause horse called a touch of class.
Who doesn't get like a cute little nickname? They don't call them touchy or classy, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Touchy, classy, or
That's
anything like
my
that.
instinct.
It's just every time you refer to the horse, you have to say the full name. A touch of class. It's like a Tribe Called Quest. You have to say the whole thing. That joke was stolen from the Boondocks. I should credit the jokes I steal. What happens next? I threw myself off.
I will say though, while you guys are trying to figure out the next point, is that
Thanks.
I was sitting in my coach's truck. We were trucking out to a horse show, and oh no, she wasn't. Okay, no, I'm thinking of a different story. She was trucking out to a horse show with one of my friends at the barn. I wasn't going to this show, and my friend Michaela and my coach, she was like, "Oh, Michaela, like you need to find like a rich man to marry so you can pay for your horses." And Michaela said, "Well, yeah, we're kind of just banking on Allie becoming a famous actress."
How's that working, by the way?
And then my coach was like, "Yeah, well, it's going."
When you're halfway there.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that you were taking acting classes from someone who was murdered in the first 5 minutes of Passion Day.
Yep.
So you're basically
I made
there.
it.
You've arrived, truly.
Mr. Spielberg, I'm ready for my close-up.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned that she enters and she competes, and like the first thing she competes with Evan, she wins, but then the wife, what the hell's her name?
Lauren.
Lauren Rubidoux.
Yeah, good
and,
name,
And
Rubidoux.
Shatner is Kenneth Rubidoux.
Yeah.
Great names for rich, affluent white people.
They're introduced at like a pool party with some like off-brand Santana playing.
Yes, exactly. And Lauren mentions that it's a good horse, but you want another horse because you don't want to overwork that horse. And she's all like, God's on our side. And then after the first
she's
match,
right.
She's right. No, the horse is very tired, and the horse doesn't. He's coming in the second and third. So she's like, I need another horse. So I guess like there's this unscrupulous horse seller that comes to the ranch or whatever, and he's showing
Larry
off,
the Cable Guy shows up with a bunch of horses.
Exactly. And he's showing all these discount horses, and like, was anyone else genuinely concerned for these horses? Because these horses like have like exposed ribs.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, are people starving horses in Hollywood so they have like
Malnourished horses?
They could
Malnourished
also
horses
just be
for the
old.
film?
They could also just be old.
Oh sure. Okay, that's good. This is
Which
why
is
you're here.
what I'm
to give us
hoping.
the insight and the context for this. Yes.
They could just be old, just under-muscled.
He's not willing to sell, or he's not going to give him up just for like a sewing machine. He actually needs,
Yeah.
he actually needs some money.
I need cash, little girl. Yeah.
So Lauren pleads with William Shatner to buy the horse, and then they go into business. They each own like a third of this horse, and they want
classy.
yeah.
We're gonna call.
Yeah,
we're gonna call her classy.
Yeah, they all own a bit of class, and they want to get
Just a touch.
Just a
They
touch.
just own a touch. They
each
each
own
own
a
a
touch
touch.
of class.
1/3 of a touch.
Yeah, it sounds like William Shatner in general. So, a touch of class is like a very talented horse, talented enough that they want to push it for the Olympics, but they want a male to ride her because men go for gold. And like Lauren has a problem with it, Debbie has a problem with it, but William Shatner wants a man, and the stable owner, Bonnie Bray. What I kept wanting to say.
Yeah, the stable owner who doesn't
mean
like
one.
Debbie for
Yeah.
unspecific reasons.
Oh no, she went into detail why she doesn't like her, because she's all Jesus. That's me quoting her now.
You know what? I'm kind of on Bonnie's side.
I'm
a
a little on her side.
I'm a little
too.
on her
Well,
side.
but then she
too.
was like, I just want to like smack her upside the head or whatever. And I was like,
I mean,
whoa.
she's mean, but she kind of has a point.
And you know what? There's people like that in the horse industry that just will single you out just because they have a problem with you, and they won't give you anything just because they just don't like you.
Yeah, and Debbie's only rationalization is God. God told me to do this, which is not really helpful for like a business aspect or like for like, you know, if you want to actually compete, like you got to play like those politics. I'm sorry, she says I don't agree with it, but it's the smart decision to do.
Yeah, and eventually Debbie comes around on the fact that it is really the only thing that she can do in circumstances like that. But and she also has like outside forces that they're kind of making that.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
We'll talk about that. I just want to say, like, a minor criticism I have of this movie is that we never really actually see Debbie do anything to show why these horses are going the distance. Like, we never really see her, like, working with the horses. Like, there's never, like, when she gets a touch of class, like, we never really see her work with that horse at all. It's just like the next time we see her, she's competing and the horse is doing well. And I don't know, I just feel like maybe include the scene as to like why, because otherwise all we're left to believe is like, well, no, it's God. God is the answer to everything. It's all like, no, I'm sure she's talented. I'm sure she's good at what she does. Maybe include a scene where we actually see her train the horses, possibly. But no, that's just kind of omitted in this movie.
It's only Debbie, who is like now the staunch hardcore true believer Christian, who is like really pushing that this is like God's plan for us. Everyone else is not as pious.
Yeah, so she's not happy with working with Shatner because he's kind of being like sneaky and manipulative, and she's kind of roping in Jonathan and Bonnie into that as well too. So she takes a call from Mr. Valentine, and she goes to Mr. Valentine's office, and that's what he says, like, we're a lot alike, you and I, in different ways. And so she signs on to their stable, and she does incredibly well, and passage of time happens, and Mr. Valentine has all these pictures on his wall of her accomplishments.
He's very proud of her, yeah. And then a bunch of high school kids come to a field trip to watch her ride.
Which actually happens.
Yeah. They don't like saddle up the horses for the other kids to ride?
No, well, that one was for a demo. There are some programs that do have like riding for the kids, but probably with an expensive, high-level competitive stable like that, there's probably no children-friendly horses.
Right. But it was specifically a group of black school children and their black teacher, and they specifically took her to Ving Rhames' stable because he's a black mogul, he's a black business owner, and this is the part of the movie where I'm all like, this is really cool that they're actually including this. I don't know if this was part of the actual story or not, but it's nice that they included it.
Dr. King said, like, judge someone by their character, and judging her by her character, she's a marvelous character.
And there's one shitty little kid who's all like, brothers and horses, that's just wrong.
And then he steps in horse
And then he steps in horse poop, and everyone had a good laugh.
Yeah.
Because he got...
instant karma. God put that pile of crap there.
Because he got horse crap on his shoes, and...
Then, all of a sudden, Debbie has a massive crash.
Yeah, this really surprised me.
It came out of fucking nowhere, because
like
the music doesn't like swerve or anything. You don't see like the dangerous jump coming up. It snaps, and like I was already writing something else down
me too.
when I heard the cacophony.
This is happening.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, because she's riding one of Valentine's horses. She's not riding either of her God-anointed horses. So I'm guessing that's why the accident happened. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's riding the devil's horse.
Allie, I need to ask you, stunt horses. Can you train them to do front somersaults like in this movie?
I think that had to be some sort of puppet or anything, because falls like that do happen. They're called rotational falls, and they are killers of both horse and riders.
Ooh.
And Debbie was lucky that she survived and walked away with just a coma. But like looking at it, like I think they must have had to have like some sort of like puppet, because it did not look like CGI. I always want to say CIG for some reason. CGI.
Well, again, like the movie is directed by the stuntman who has like the longest career working with horses. Horses are his whole deal, and you see like war movies and stuff like that where horses just go down, and you see like movies where like horses get shot and everything, and obviously that's done practically. I think a lot of it's probably CGI now, but like back in the day when they didn't have that, you just had to train the horse to fall and not crush the rider. So that's probably one of the hardest stunts in all of Hollywood to do, because there's so much margin for error. But it sounds
prey
like
animals, they don't want to lay down.
Yeah,
because we're predators.
Absolutely. So it's like that's why this movie is directed by like the guy. The guy you want on set to be able to do this is helming this. And this is the only time in the movie that happens. This is like the biggest horse related stunt probably in the movie.
I mean, the jumps would probably be technically called stunt on the papers and stuff like that.
But Debbie goes down. She's lying in a bloody mess on the ground. There's a very funny piece of editing where Debbie goes down, and then it cuts to the teacher ushering the children away, and just kind of looks like, oh, run, children, we need to get away.
All right, let's move along.
We can't be connected to this. We need to go. You just know we'll get blamed for this somehow, so we gotta go. We gotta back on the bus, everyone.
I saw a tidbit of information that I want to share. Do you remember the horse's name?
It was Eagle.
Eagle.
Yeah.
Nikki Reed and Ian Somerhalder have a horse together named Eagle. So I wonder if that was just a little Easter egg that they put in there for her.
It's funny that they picked the horse that sent her into a coma, but
Yeah, they're trying to they're trying to jinx it, but jinx it so it wouldn't turn out that way for her.
What a nice wholesome little Easter egg. The horse that nearly killed me is named after like my favorite.
So she goes into a coma for 10 days.
Yeah.
Although it feels a lot longer because there's this montage of just like time passing, and there's one shot of like a horse and a colt next to it. And it's just like, look, if you're showing a baby horse, that gives me the impression that a lot more time is passing than just 10 days.
Yeah, because then you think like renewal, like
rebirth.
Yeah,
the spring is going on.
Spring has sprung.
But no, it was like a long weekend that she was okay, longer than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, she had 6 months.
Long weekend.
She had 6 months of physio afterwards.
So, yeah, exactly.
And of course,
she's out of the game for a while.
Yeah, her parents come by and they're just Dad's absolutely furious at Ving Rhames for this. Like it's your fault that it was your horse, it was your property, you're totally responsible. Ving Rhames does the awesome thing of like covering all of her medical expenses
and giving the family space. He doesn't try to force himself on. He understands what the position is.
Absolutely, yeah.
When that moment when he offered to pay for it, I was like, oh right, this is an American movie.
Yeah.
This takes place in the States.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. In the 1980s.
And I was like, oh my god, this is probably so expensive. You need to be like a super rich computer guy to pay for a 10-day vacation.
So Debbie goes ahead and she has to sell her shares of Touch of Class to William Shatner and Lauren, and then A Touch of Class goes on to win Olympic gold, which I think that's likely 100% what truly happened.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that's a bit of a heartbreak to see right there. Debbie does eventually start writing again, but the events left her epileptic. So
yeah, she develops epilepsy on top of that, which I gotta say really does actually add some genuine tension to this movie. I wasn't enthralled by this movie, but certainly by the end of the movie when she's competing in everything, just knowing the fact that she could have a seizure at any point does add a certain level of, oh god, what's going to happen? Something bad could happen here. This is based on a true story. I don't know what happened. So it's good. It's good storytelling.
Yeah.
And again, it's probably what happened. So yeah.
You know what I don't think happened? Whenever she does ride in shows again, the PA announcer always brings up that she's coming back
every time she's on top of the horse. It's just got dude, fucking wait.
This is
wait
amazing.
a minute. Yeah.
And he's doing that while she's riding and jumping, and it's you might want to put a lid on that so she can fucking concentrate.
Yeah, no, that doesn't really happen.
I'm sure that's a trope in other sports movies. They'll number 25 on the field,
recovering from a coma and 6 months of physio.
He's counting the seconds over the mic.
This is gonna be an important game for him, Jameson. His wife left him last week, and his dog was run over in the parking lot just before the game. Could see a single tear running down his cheek there.
It's an amazing achievement for Debbie just to be competing here tonight, having suffered a near fatal fall 6 months ago.
And then are we at the final competition?
Her dad just came in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we've ever seen him, folks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He doesn't go to any of her tour shows.
No, that's also relatable.
Protest.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only one of
touched a nerve. Oh
no,
my.
no. Dad came to a couple.
Yeah.
Dad was
Yeah.
always there.
I've been to a couple. I haven't been to all. Of them.
You've been to one, JJ.
That's right.
Did he come in at the last possible moment and it's just you go, Elliot, you show them all.
Oh no, I think only one time did he actually miss one of my rounds, and that was he was stuck in traffic or whatever. But no,
But he stood at the very
that
back
was
and he
more
gave
so
you a slow
joke.
clap.
Dad, if you're listening, you were very supportive during my time with riding. And
Whereas
you still are.
Debbie ought to be thinking oh great, my super critical, unsupportive dad is here. No pressure.
No, but he was smiling and cheering her on, and he was like, show him how it's done.
Yeah.
Debbie's dad really has some weird widespread prejudices because he's against the idea of horse riding, but then like earlier when Linda Hamilton's all well, she went to the preacher for advice, and the preacher says okay, he's all I'm not listening to what some backwater preacher does. It's so what team are you on, Dad?
Yeah.
Who do you like?
Yeah.
You seem to like no one.
The only the only little tiny detail that they mentioned that I thought was a nice little touch of class, was
Ew.
one of the first competitions that she gives her parents tickets to is in Washington. And I thought, like, that's a nice little detail where, like, the show that she invites him to go to is actually in, like, the town that he used to play NFL football in, and probably has, like, some...
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Probably has some, like, bad memories there.
Would have been interesting if the movie gave us that impression, but...
Or clarified if it was D.C. or Washington State, but... but yeah, like, she's back in the competitive circuit.
Say it. Say it.
What? She's back in the saddle?
She's back in the saddle
All right,
again.
yeah.
It'd have been a while since our last horse joke, so...
Yeah. Elise, ever the fucking villain, like... This person just came back from, like, nearly dying, and she is not letting off the gas pedal on being, like, this absolute shitheel of a person. Like, there's a part in this movie where, like, I thought Elise was riding, like, she was, like, competing, and it wasn't, then because the camera cut to her, and she's just scowling in the background.
It is a little hard to tell who is riding at one point, because they're all somewhat dressed the same. And look, I don't want to make, like, inflammatory statements on this podcast, but I'm just going to say, most horses look alike. So, to me, anyway, Ali's giving me the death stare right now.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it can, to the untrained eye,
yes.
To idiots like us.
Right.
they do look alike. But if
From a
you,
distance, certainly, you know, one brown
I
horse...
never had an issue figuring
All right.
out who was
well,
riding.
there we go. Fair enough.
But
Fair
I was
enough.
also looking at their show jackets because they were playing with color, which usually you don't really do that with actual competitions. Like Elise was wearing like a bright hot pink one.
Yeah, I have to
Lauren
imagine
was in
that's
like a nice
not...
like green
Yeah.
one with like it was sequined or it had like bedazzles on it. So, but it was all like classy looking, like it wasn't garish.
Elise is wearing, like, hot pink to
That was garish. Yeah.
to better describe her as, you know, the mean girl.
Yeah, it's a
of
bit
the-
tacky, yeah. The doc points for her.
Yeah, you know, and she's on like the gray horse, right? So it's like basically pink and her white pony type thing. That's always the mean girl in the.
I did
the
find it a little.
commercials.
I did find it a little convenient that everyone in this final competition was someone that had some sort of connection to Debbie.
Yeah.
Because it's 4 people, and it's Lauren, it's Elise, and then it's the writer who's writing A Touch of Class. There's no other randos involved in this. It's just those 4.
Yeah, no
it's
other
It's a little narratively convenient a bit. I don't think it would have shook out that way in real
A
life.
lot of
but-
also rans, yeah.
Yeah.
Announcer should have, like, and this person connects to Debbie through this way because
That's why he's talking so much during the rounds. He's got to
Yeah.
get all this info out.
Elise, who has a deep-seated hatred for Debbie and her sponsor. Yeah. And Debbie wins. Debbie wins the jumping competition.
Debbie does.
Debbie does win.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, like, Elise is sort of, like, set up as, like, the antagonist. Because, like, normally that role is sort of, like, taken on by someone who, like, really is, like, the competition for the other person. You know, it's like the Aspen Extreme thing, where it's like the evil German guy is like he's the good one. He's the one that you have to beat. Elise comes in dead last.
Yeah.
Which I guess is like Schadenfreude for the audience or whatever. But it's weird that there's an antagonist character, but she's never competition for Debbie. She's Debbie is always better than her in every way.
Oh, every time Elise, like, makes some kind of, like, snarky remark at Debbie's expense, she's immediately put in her place by whoever she's talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I appreciate. But, like, Debbie should take the hint that, like, maybe she should ease up or lighten up about this sort of thing.
I mean, a lot of these mean girl stereotypes in these movies usually have 1 or 2 moments of redemption where you can see
No,
the
she does not,
No,
yeah.
you can see, like,
No.
the humanity in them, but no, none in this one. She's an outright bad person, and she's probably going to hell according to this movie's morals. I don't know, whatnot.
I don't know. I find it like refreshing that she didn't have like redemption. Like she was just a bad person, and because there's bad people in the world, not everyone gets their redemption arc.
That's true. This is a deeper movie than I.
Especially, yeah, because I like seeing that with like female characters too. Just as an actor myself, like we don't suddenly, it doesn't matter if you're a bad man or a bad woman or a bad whoever, right? Like if you don't see the error in your ways, you're going to continue being a bad person, right? So it's, I could see Elise, as horrible as she was, it felt like a real person to me. And
Yeah.
I was so glad that Debbie kicked her ass every single time.
Yeah. Like, there's, like, as much as, like, everyone really loves sympathetic, relatable villains, I don't think there's anything wrong with just like an unapologetic bad person.
Mm-hmm.
Those are fun roles. Those are memorable roles. And, you know, it was nice to see something like that for this character. And, like, it doesn't even need much of an explanation. Like, clearly the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because her parents aren't super great either.
But her parents seem better than she is. Her parents don't seem like racists.
Yeah.
Like, when she makes the comment about Ving Rhames, her mom's all like, at least don't, that's not the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm.
Or they've just been learned how to be more subtle with their racism,
Maybe.
I guess.
It's like the privilege of being that kid that got to grow up with having mom and dad buy them the best pony ever, the best clothes, the custom tack, that just the sport unfortunately is very pay to win. So if you get to, you know, start with all that money at the beginning, you will just go further. And it was just nice to see that even though this privileged brat you know, even though she had the money and the funds and the horses, still got beat out by the underdog.
So, growing up competing in an industry that you've described as sort of like a pay to win sort of industry, because in the time that I've known you, you've never described yourself as like old money or anything. So like, did you end up relating to Debbie to a certain degree?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like at the beginning, like I was ready. I was sitting down to watch this movie, ready to just nitpick all the inaccuracies. And then, I already said it before, but when she was talking about not being able to afford the horse she needs, I was like, oh my gosh, that's me, right? Because that's just where I am now. You know, I'm starting out as an actor. I don't work too much because I have a unique opportunity where I can put a lot of my time towards pursuing a career in acting. And I'm really grateful and happy that I get to do that. But there's this little part of me, the little 4-year-old girl, that was like, oh, I'm going to go to the Olympics. That's not how it works, right? No matter how much you dream, if you don't have that money, if you don't have those opportunities, if you don't have that network, that connection with other people, you're just always going to, you're just not going to make it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a really sad reality. And, you know, and I'll see my little girls that come in and I see them and they're, you know, like, what are your goals with horseback riding? Oh, I want to represent Team Canada. And you're like, well, let's get you there.
Yeah.
I always just tell them that because I don't want to be the one.
Yeah. You don't want to. It's never like aim low.
Yeah, and like, you know, because no one did it to me, right? And it's like I still enjoy the sport.
Yeah.
Right. I've accepted where I am. Right. And then when I become a super famous actress, then I'll come back with my $1 million horse, and you'll see me then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you see me.
When you become a computer tech billionaire.
Yeah,
and
that too.
become a snappier dresser.
Yeah, when my Twitch stream really blows up.
Yeah.
There's a big crossover, I feel, with actors and horses. Yeah, I feel like you read a lot of interviews with famous actors. A lot of them own ranches, and that's where they go to.
It's a wonderful thing. Like I love horseback riding, and I find people that even who aren't really passionate about horses, like if they go and ride, like they like it, they enjoy it. It's fun. It's a fun thing to do. Unfortunately, extremely expensive.
Right, but if you're making that Twilight money, you can you can afford it.
And then if your husband's making that Vampire Diaries,
right, that's in syndication, so he's probably making more money than her because that still airs, I imagine. But you hear stories like Viggo Mortensen bought the horse from Lord of the Rings, and he still owns it.
Which is such a
and everything.
heartwarming story.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So speaking of Twilight, we flash forward to the twilight of the evangelist's life.
You proud of that one?
Very.
You wrote that down?
I did not. That just came organically.
This is gonna kill. This movie has a fucking Marley and Me ending. I'm just like, fuck you, movie.
I was like, oh no, they're gonna make me sad about the horse.
I cried.
Yeah.
I teared up. Like, goddamn.
It cuts to 25 years later, and we find out that, I guess, again, inspired by a true story, so I guess this is accurate. I guess her epilepsy was never an issue because she wins all these awards and it's never touched on again. So I guess she never had another seizure on horseback. She seems to be doing just fine. And we don't see poor the evangelist, get like the needle in them and anything like that. But it's now like an old horse now, and they walk out into God's majesty. They walk out into the white light.
They walk into the light together and everything. Yeah.
And then there's a quote from Robert Frost. I'm surprised there wasn't a quote from the Bible. But
I know I was expecting a verse too. But
But
It was a lovely.
yeah.
It was a beautiful ending, and like, damn, like the makeup work was actually pretty good too. To age her up
Nikki
a bit.
Reed plays the scene very well. She's obviously very sad. You know,
Made me very sad.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was an actor and I had to spend the day with a very old horse, I might be able to get the tears flowing. Just on the fact is all like, oh, look at you, you're a very old horse.
I know.
Oh, hello.
Well, you think about how hard they
Yeah,
worked, and
yeah.
like, how loved they were,
Exactly.
and how many like
Old animals always
children
make me
and
kind of
people
weepy
loved them.
anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, like they had the IV out for the horse and everything. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yep,
oh,
that's the thing.
oh,
Yeah.
my heart.
Well, is there anything else about a Sunday horse that we didn't talk about that we want to mention really quickly? Did we cover it all?
There's one line that before she has her her coma, Debbie goes to Jonathan and like she thanks him for believing in her and for pushing her, lighting a fire under her ass, and she mentions the line like, "I would have smoked myself stupid if it wasn't for you." And my reaction was, "Oh yeah, she's supposed to be a stoner. It would happen one time, and like it doesn't really factor into her personality at all." Or
Look, I don't love the opinion that this movie has about weed, but like, you know, like as a stoner myself, I will say that part of the reason I'm not a championship horse rider is probably because I smoke a ton of marijuana. So yeah, I agree. You probably can't do both. You probably do have to give one up if you want to be the other.
Sure.
So
well, if she's
I will agree with that.
if she can't save any money because she's blowing it all on weed and she's down to like 65 bucks.
Hey, weed was expensive back then and not legal.
that's
So, you
true.
know, like you had to, you know, hang out with a guy.
I mean, this
Who
movie
knows, yeah.
this movie was probably shot in a state where it was legal, but it probably wasn't legal.
No,
in
but it was like the 70s. The movie takes place in the 70s
Yeah.
or the or whatever. It's probably not. It's probably like the 20. That's the thing. It's 25 years
But
ago
it's-
now.
it's
Was
not-
the 80s? So
it's
it's
not a
prob-
period piece. Like all the cars are like modern, like rancher SUV trucks.
Look, if no one pulls out a smartphone, then it's a period piece.
Fine.
That's the
That's
level.
the
That's the,
Well,
that's,
no one
that's
had
how
a
we-
flip phone either.
That's true.
There's no rotaries.
That's
No,
true.
they had like the Wall Street phones that were like bricks.
Oh,
the
yeah.
antenna that came out. That you couldn't talk to people if you didn't literally pull the antenna out. Yeah, none of those. There's not nary a phone to be seen.
Allie, anything from this movie that we didn't cover that you want to bring up?
No, I was going to say the one thing that at the beginning, because we're on the topic of her toking up in the barn, there is no smoking allowed at barns. Barns are dusty, full of hay and animals and people doing exercise and animals doing exercise. So I was like, oh my gosh, she's smoking in the barn. She's going to cause a fire. Like the barn's going to explode. But then Jonathan comes by and is like, hey, no smoking allowed in the barn. And she's like, oh, whatever.
I got a
But
can.
it's-
I got a can of beans. I got an empty can of beans. I'm being safe.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, I was so glad because like
Puts it out.
the barn employee and the riding instructor in me was like, oh my god, no, like red flag, alarm bells, like
Yeah.
the barn's gonna explode. And then having Jonathan come to my saving grace and get her to stop, I was like, okay, maybe I'll be okay.
I don't even like going to the supermarket when I'm high. Getting on top of a horse would
Well,
be
she was
the
laying
most
down.
terrified. Yeah, I know. She's probably not combined.
I'm gonna leave you. I'm gonna leave the walking to you, buddy. I'm too high to
You
ride.
gasped earlier. Do you have another point?
I do, but like we might even just cut it because it's not great. Debbie has a
I mean,
friend.
sell it better, but you know, I'm fine.
Debbie has a friend who works at the barn, the first barn that we see her working
Yeah,
at.
the accent guy.
The English guy, yeah,
Yeah.
who sounds a lot like
It's
David
very-
Iote.
Not late.
Not early either, but the boss is partial to early. Moo, you cow. That cow probably costs more than your parents' house. They want you over at the show course.
They who?
After yesterday, I'd worry more about the why and less about the who. Go, get going.
Or who's the guy from Darth Vader's
Yeah,
Dark
yeah,
Place?
David Iote. Yeah,
Yeah. I thought he sounded a lot like him.
Iote? I
Iote.
never know how to pronounce that guy's
Yeah.
name.
But I know you do a damn good impression of the guy. You and Maddie.
Cool it, Sanchez, or I'll get you a knuckle supper.
Hey, that's great. I
Yeah.
love that.
Mm.
Cool. All right, great. Well, that was a Sunday horse.
Yeah.
Ollie,
A Sunday horse?
a Sunday horse.
Sunday horse.
A Sunday,
Sunday
horse. I'll do one. I'll
horse.
do one normal one. A Sunday horse.
That's-
Allie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
It's
thank you
an
for
absolute
having me.
delight.
Yeah.
I will happily spew about horses anytime.
Hooray! Well, thank you. No, I mean, you added, like, we wouldn't have been able to watch this movie truly without the context that you brought to this, because we're just two horse dummies. What's the word for when you're not illiterate? Horse illiterate dum-dums, which is what Jonathan thinks stable people are. He thinks they're all illiterate.
Yeah.
Or yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, our love interest or whatnot.
So I think we gotta ask, does this movie...
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So, Allie, do you think this, is this movie something, or is it just a whole lot of nothing?
Honestly, best horse movie, most accurate. I think it's actually probably on one of my lists on one I'd recommend to someone.
Great.
So I guess that you could say that's something.
Yeah. And it's the rare faith-based movie that's not overly preachy.
Yeah, it was a tasteful amount of religion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine being religious, not necessarily like shoving it down my throat. Kind of feel like Debbie.
Yeah.
That's how
You're mixing up your horse girls.
That's how close the two characters are. I'm calling you a character. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm smoking in the barn all the time. I walk up to the kids with a lit cigarette.
She might be
yeah, ready to go, honey.
She might not be the best coworker to have, because she probably drops the JC's name more often than not. But I wasn't like.
She's not a potty mouth though. She censors herself.
She does. Yeah. I mean, she doesn't censor herself. Other people do. The editor does.
Yeah.
But I
don't know. This movie.
This is tough. Yeah.
You know, like it's certainly not like the greatest movie we ever watched, but I was surprised at like the very weighty topics that it brushes. It brings them up, and it doesn't. It doesn't do a whole lot of justice or say anything about it, but it acknowledges them. And I wouldn't have put it to this movie because I would have thought like, oh, super Christian movie. It's all going to be like put on a happy face. Like we're just not going to mention the unpleasantness of racism or sexism or classism or anything like that. You know, the most. I
mean, no gay people exist in this movie except maybe Jonathan.
I would have thought like the most controversial thing in this movie would have been that Debbie smokes, you know, and that she's a lapsed Christian, you know, that like, or she's struggling with her beliefs, and that would be like as controversial this movie got. But it actually touches on a couple of things that I wouldn't have expected it to. So for that alone, I think like, no, it's certainly something.
God, I'm really torn. I don't want to go so far as to say like this movie has a certain something, because it's completely inoffensive. I really don't have anything like negative to say about it. Look, but I also don't want to say like it has a whole lot of nothing, because it's not. Because there's nothing really to complain about it. I feel like we need a third category. And I know I came up with the categories, but like I really
is that a thing?
There just needs to be a thing. There's like a third thing. Maybe that's the third category. It's a third thing. To crib a joke, one of my favorite jokes from Clerks, the animated series. It's a third thing. That's what I think. That's my opinion on it now. It's now we now have a third category for the show.
I just thought of one other thing.
Okay.
All right. There's a part where Debbie hugs Ving Rhames, and you see the back of Ving Rhames' head, and you see that scar that's on the back of his neck.
Yeah.
The famous scar. Have you seen Pulp Fiction?
No, actually.
Okay. There's a part, Ving Rhames is in that movie as like this crime boss, and in his establishing shot, there's a Band-Aid on the back of his neck, and that was to cover like a very real world scar. But the fans of Pulp Fiction are like losing their minds with theories on what that can mean, because like he's missing something important. People assume it's like his soul, because like we never see what's inside the briefcase, but it looks shiny, and I guess in some cultures like the soul can be ejected to the back of your neck. But in this movie, we actually see the back of his neck, and we see that really gnarly looking scar. So that's what this Band-Aid is covering up, all you Pulp Fiction fans. There's no grand mystery to it. This is what...
Yeah, because he doesn't wear a Band-Aid in every movie that he's in.
No.
So I imagine that scar's probably visible in more movies than it is.
Yeah, well, this is the first time I've seen it, probably because he's just leaning in for a hug.
Yeah, and I imagine certain movies that have, like, the budget to do it probably, like, edit out the scar and, like... Yeah. Certain things or whatever. I mean, it's a scar on the back of his neck. It's not like, you know, Michael K. Williams' scar, which just goes down the center of his face, and there's no way to edit that out. But you know, he just kind of like leaned into it. What is the origin of Ving Rhames' scar? We don't need to go into it now. We'll cover it when we eventually cover Ving Rhames on this show, because I want to talk about Ving Rhames some more. I love Ving Rhames. I know this always gets said about like big actors who are also bald, but like Ving Rhames would make an amazing Kingpin. That would just be great. Like Ving Rhames just always gives off the energy of just someone you don't want to fuck with. Yeah. So there we go.
Sunday horse.
A Sunday horse.
Which I said was an exclamation point.
A Sunday horse.
Yeah.
Allie, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for being here.
Do you have anything that you would like to plug, or barring that, do you have anything that you've watched or read or seen or listened to recently that you want to recommend to people?
Ooh.
Or barring that, do you have any embarrassing stories about Jameson that you want to share?
No, because I mean,
Sorry, any embarrassing stories about JJ that you want to
yeah,
share?
I mean, I'm the baby sister. He kind of moved out before I developed a personality.
Oh, don't say that.
So-
You were a horse girl.
So he was in his rebellious teen phase.
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
you
no,
were-
so
Yeah, hopped on my Harley and was like, whatever, Mom and Dad.
Okay, I'll plug the things real quick. We already said I stream on Twitch.
Yep,
at
Burbtown.
At Burbtown, that's BIRB and then town. I have a podcast of my own.
Woo!
If you are a Dungeons and Dragons enthusiast,
Excellent.
or are called Wannabe Heroes.
That's available on all the podcast apps.
Yeah, you'll find it.
You'll find it.
I run the TikTok for the D&D podcast as well, so you can follow us on TikTok and our Instagram, and any funny things that you see posted on there, that was done by me.
Great. We'll try and include links to all of these in the show notes, so you can click on this.
And I was watching the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Everyone needs to watch that because everyone needs to watch it so I can talk to everyone about it.
Most people probably were. I am going to attempt to wait until it's all out and then watch it all as one big movie.
You're gonna find a
It's going to
spoiler.
get spoiled.
Yeah.
Like I'm already like limiting the amount of time that I am on Twitter
Yeah.
right now because I just know it's going to get. I'm not going to make it. Basically, I know
Yeah.
I'm going to have to bite the bullet eventually. Which I don't love the way that these Disney Plus shows are getting marketed because it's like you have to watch it every week. You don't have a choice if you
Yeah,
don't want
that's
to get
fair.
spoiled.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad it's good.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it.
All right.
We need a new good Star Wars show after the last one. That was not great.
Well, and I like watching the Kenobi series because it's like I've seen A New Hope. Like I know he's gonna be okay, at least for now.
We should also mention you're also wearing a Hayden Christensen Darth Vader T-shirt right now. So that's
Him as
your-
Anakin, and it says
Yeah.
Playboy on the top. Plug the store I got. It was Rebel and Fleur.
there you go.
There you go.
Plugs for days.
All right.
All right, fantastic. Well, that was A Sunday Horse, directed by the greatest stuntman of all time, Vic Armstrong. If you enjoyed this episode, please listen to our back catalog of other podcast episodes where the name of the show was The Fuck Is This? It's basically this show, but we're not really focused on actors and careers in that point. We're available on Spotify and YouTube. If you listen to us on YouTube, which, as Jameson just pointed out, I never mention, I always begrudgingly talk about, there's a visual element to that, and Jameson adds all of these
Bless my ass for it.
he busts. He does all of the work. All of it. Everything is because of Jameson. I bow down to him, and I'm going to give him $500 right
Great.
now. Here
Great.
we go. Passing it over to you.
Great.
And
Oh
he's-
wow,
he-
that's so much money.
that's so much money. He's
Is that
taking
in
it.
toonies?
This is a $500 bill with your face on it.
That's right.
Giving a big old thumbs up.
We'd like to thank Joel Flynn and Luke Schuss and Podstream Studios for allowing us to use their equipment. We'd like to thank Eddie Lamb for his amazing theme music. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and all the other social medias. And that's it for Nothing Movies. I'm a Sunday Kaz.
And I'm Jameson. We got one more Linda Hamilton movie to cover.
Oh, yes, we got one more. Yeah,
Yeah.
God.
Wow.
Wow.
I forgot we're doing
I completely forgot this is a Linda Hamilton miniseries. I think this is easily the least amount we have talked about the subject of it. I feel really bad. She's in the next movie, I think, a little bit more than this one. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I won't be able to say that, but we have a really cool guest lined up for that one. That'll be fun.
Cool.
Do you got a line to take us out on, Jameson?
Oh, no, I stopped doing that.
Okay. Well, if you see a burning bush, don't reach for a hose. Listen to the voice of God, and water into wine will give way to a doobie toke on a Saturday night.